Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
That's so much better. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in from. I am your host, Paul Rogers, and welcome to another episode of Release the Genie. We have a very, very special guest genie today. She will be able to add this to an increasing accolade of wonderful trophies and titles, the wonderful Ellen Bradley Janus. And let me just give you a little bit of background. Well, look, she has been an actress most of her life, and there's very exciting things. She hasn't quite finished with that role yet. A mompreneur, I think I said that correctly, a Dramatic Health Inc., a founding member, and an author who's written not just one book, but a series of books. So amazing, overqualified genie today, the wonderful Ellen. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that very incredible introduction. I hope I can just add value today and make it an interesting show for everybody.
As a genie, I think that's pretty much a given. So I've kind of set the scene for you. So tell us a little bit more about your background, about you.
Well, I live in Los Angeles. I have 2 grown children at this point, which is crazy. I still think of them as being little ones, but my son is 18, my daughter's 21. Been married to my husband since 1989. You have to do the math because I think I've stopped counting at this point. And, most of my life has been working as an actress. So I've been in entertainment. That's my great love in terms of the arts. I also play piano and love to sing and dance. I study flamenco. So I do a lot of different things, very art-based. And then I switched over and really stepped into the big business world in 2004 when I went through a massive life change and my son was challenged with a life-threatening blood disease in the hospital. And so there's sometimes a silver lining if hopefully one can find it. And thank God, he made it past a very, very great challenge in his life. And then for my family, it really forced us to, I think, examine and rethink the way that we were living. So priorities changed, values changed. And for me personally, I became very, very driven to be able to live the best life that I could every minute that I had, knowing that tomorrow wasn't promised. And that's what put me on track into how we found each other, right, on LinkedIn in the business world.
And I think you're right. I mean, adversity is kind of where we're living at the moment. And I think you've been able, as you say, the silver lining to push families together to actually get them more aligned with actually where we should have been before we got sidetracked by all the mess.
Where we come in, what we come in with when we're born, that we get far away with as we sort of come deeper into our physical form, really.
I love that. And I think so true. And anyone listening who is struggling with this, take heart because there is a way out. There is a silver lining. So great message. So that kind of leads me to very nicely to what has been one of your aha Release the Genie moments?
I think that learning that we have the freedom to choose our reactions was a really big deal for me. I think it was definitely something I got out of working with Tony Robbins in my early years. But I think when you take the lessons you're learning scholastically, whether it's in school or at a, self-development webinar or a good book, I think there's one thing to learn it from the book, and then there's another thing to have it actualized in your life, and then the two kind of come together and everything starts to make sense. So I think for me, this ability to choose, understanding that our future is built on the reactions and of how we react to things and the stories that we tell ourselves. So this idea that we have a certain degree over the control of our lives, more so than we realize, simply by paying attention to moments and learning. I was saying react, it really is respond, right? React is really what we don't want to do. But I guess what I'm just saying is, in the freedom of choice to choose your emotions, your feelings, and the stories that you tell about particular events really shape your future. I think that's a really big deal that came out of everything, because when we're in the thick of the fight, we don't really feel in control of anything. Things don't make sense. Sometimes we accept a victim identity, and it's not oftentimes until after that we can look back with the hindsight of 2020 to understand things. So with that being said, understanding that sometimes we understand things later, but through our life, with everything that happens, we have the choice to choose how we're going to respond and how we're going to tell ourselves that story. I think that's a really big deal on how we move forward and move through things with grace.
I think you're so right, because choice is key, because if you start blaming things, you give your choice and your power away, when actually, if you, in harsh terms, take responsibility for actions and come from a place of strength, rather than actually just being dragged around all over the place by a reaction. So no, I think that comes through very loud and clear on that. So a wonderful bit of, hey, we haven't even got to the wishes yet, and you're this is really good. So people, grab your pen and paper, because if this is where we're going, this is all good stuff. So let me ask you, what has been one of your inspirational quotes or mantras which has sort of helped you through your life and the tough times?
Ooh, I have two favorite poems. One is by Emerson and one is by Rudyard Kipling. The Kipling poem is called If. And I won't recite the whole poem, but it starts out, if you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming you.
I love that.
So, I think that that's definitely another one. And the Emerson one ends in, if you could leave the world, with a small garden patch, or a child, or just know that one life has breathed easier because you've been here, then you have succeeded. And that poem is called Success.
That is wonderful. And that's kind of why you're a mentor, you look to work in partnerships, because it's just that one person. And I can see that's your real driving force there.
Oh, it really is. It really is. I mean, there's another story, right, about all the guy that was throwing all the sand dollars back into the ocean, and somebody said, "Oh my gosh, but the beach is so full, you'll never get them all. What are you doing? You're wasting your time." And he says, "No, my time is not wasted if just one gets back there safely." And so, I really, you don't realize the power that we have to impact one another sometimes. And it really does fulfill me and get me going, and it keeps me going at this late time of my journey with my company in its 18th year. A lot of times people will say, like, you have so many other things going on, and why does it still seem like this is the center of your world? Because this is all about impact. This is all about contribution. This is all about changing lives. I'm involved in a health and wellness company, but this health and wellness company gives people also an opportunity to be able to become an ambassador and recreate their finances. When you're dealing with people's health, and you're dealing with people's finances, you're basically dealing with every relationship that they have with themselves and the world around them that's going to determine the level of success and fulfillment that they'll ultimately be able to have, right?
I think you're right. It's one of the most intimate relationships, is about, you know, your relationship with your own health and then your finances, and that creates a massive amount of trust, because if you're willing, if you're able to sort of be able to get in and help with that, you know.
But when we talk about finances, it's one thing to talk about things, and you and I have spoken about the physical plane versus the spiritual plane. But I always tell people, we're really broke between our ears.
Mm.
Even though the bank may not be reflecting the abundance and the cash flow that you wish to have, if we don't fix the belief systems and make our belief systems abundant, and we don't prepare ourselves with a readiness to receive, it doesn't matter how grand the opportunity before you is, it ain't going to happen. And the example that I give people is, I say, do you ever know anybody that makes a lot of money, let's say, but somehow they lose it all and they always end up at a certain place? That's indicative of what their thermostat is. And what it really comes down to, when you peel the layers of the onion, it really, really, really comes down to an aspect of self-worth and deservability. And that goes into Brene Brown's work, right? With shame. And it's all so connected. In my opinion, everything is about your relationship with yourself, your capacity to have self-love, your ability to know your self-worth, and then take a stand for that in the world when it comes to the ideal relationship, when it comes to the ideal work, when it comes to being able to receive more money or less money. So I just want to be really, really clear when we're talking about this, because it is so important to me. I'm not somebody that lives with this very materialistic mindset. I love helping people with their finances, but what I love most about it is recreating their belief systems and getting them ready for more of all success. Because usually, if somebody is kind of broke in one area, you can kind of look in other areas and see patterns. So as we start to work on one aspect, it has that domino effect to really ignite all things wonderful for a life that people want to be living that they have not yet realized. And that's the journey. I just use the vehicle of my business as the door opener to have deeper conversations, awaken people to truly live their best life, starting with their health, and then putting them on the path to their hopefully greatest opportunity for wealth.
I think that's, I love the fact of the vehicle, because, it conjures up such a great picture of people getting in and then traveling. So there's movement. It's not static, it's actual movement.
Nothing is static, is it? I think the one constant we have is change.
And also starting with yourself, to quote a bit of Bob Proctor, inside out. So I think it's marvelous, and I think your desire and your energy just comes through the screen. So I think that's very, very authentic on that. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope that everybody knows there's nothing scripted here. And I did ask Paul to not tell me anything we're going to talk about, because I really love being in the moment with you and being able to just share whatever comes up from the organic nature of the moment. I don't know how to script. I don't do well with scripts unless you're paying me to do a film, and then I bring my actress self because I have to, bring to life the work of a writer.
So this nitrox fuel is actually just pure inspiration. I love it. I'm going to cut you off before you deny that. So that's so. Tell me, because people are shaped by their story. So tell me, what has been one adversity that setback you've had to overcome?
Oh man, I have so many. Where should we start? I don't know. Give me an idea of what would you like to hear about? Because to be honest, I was a hot mess in a lot of places. Overcoming it. But listen, I've also been a student of personal development my entire life. So I think my entire life has been an overcoming of my humanity, so to speak.
No, I think to be honest, it's always very hard to say, well, that one thing taught me everything I know. That's not how real life works. It's actually a series of doorways, which I always view it like it's each challenge requires a different level, a different person.
Yeah, it does.
I
mean, I think, one of the hardest things for me was growing up in a family that was very traditional and very loving. Most of them doctors and professionals, most of them doctors, really. And although I liked the world of healing, mine had to do with herbs and mind body medicine and homeopathy and, things in that realm. And, it was not always easy to be challenged by those around me that loved me, that thought so differently, and challenged me to really take a stand for what I believed and prove it, or dive deeper into it to be able to understand it in a way that I could then make sense of it and utilize it, right? Because I think a lot of Western trained doctors are dealing with handling symptoms as opposed to holistic views of health. And popping a pill for me never worked. I wanted to know what created the patterns and how do we sustain wellness versus treat illness. So that was a big thing early on that had to do with me understanding that there was a part of me that was unique, that could be embraced, that I can stand behind and I could champion when everything around me was mirroring something different. So I think for the listeners, it's really this idea that the little small voice inside of yourself is something that you should pay attention to and trust. And I think that was a biggie very early on, just from the structure of family and how I grew up.
I think you're right. Unfortunately, the voice has been drowned out with all the other things that are going on. But there seems to be a movement where people actually now are starting to listen to that type of advice. So I think adversity is actually helping create that. So it's kind of nice to know you're right on the crest of the wave on that one.
Well, I can get a little woo-woo on you if you want.
My audience know woo-woo. I'm sat here with a genie over me, so that's not going to be.
Well, we had something in 1987 called a harmonic convergence. And what that means is at that time, there was a shift in the planet when there were souls coming in with more of a sense of who they were upon birth. And when you talk about more people awakening and more people listening to that small voice, I just think that we're living at a special time on the planet when, the children that are being born now truly do have a great sense of their purpose, much more so than generations before them. And they're showing that at very young ages. And I think, obviously the computer age and all the technology around us allows anybody to take their message and broadcast it and become famous and become of value, hopefully, or not, if they have something of value to share. But so it's kind of the perfect storm, right? Because you have these new types of beings coming to the world, and we're now providing them with ways in which to bring forth their talent. So.
And you and I have talked about coincidences and no coincidences, and I think you're entirely right that actually it is all converging and it is a perfect storm, as you quite well put there. So interesting time, eh?
Well, now with the pandemic, it's the age of Aquarius, baby. It's what we've been waiting for. It's hopefully the new chapter of love and oneness. I mean, we're going through such tragedy and such challenge, but, I think the best part about it is that people are now taking responsibility for what they believe is right. And I'm not here to say who's right. I'm just here to say that if we can wake up every day with our own morality in place and understand the priorities of the day that are now being born very differently, we have a chance.
I love it. And I can so easily see that threading through your work and journey. So, I can see that this is kind of stamped all the way through you. So that's kind of cool. So this is kind of fun. And people who watch the show, they'll see this is a new little question. I'd like you to tell us, who is your hero? And they can be alive or dead, fiction or non-fiction, and why they are your hero.
Oh no, you're going to give me like 2 minutes to come up with that one. Oh, goodness. I have so many heroes. I'm going to talk about a woman named Kathy Cooper, who happens to be the co-founder of our company. And really, she and her husband, Jim, are two of my heroes. Kathy is a woman that, against all odds, shows up with her greatest feminine power in a way that always elevates everybody around her to be their best, live their best. She is one of the most generous people that I know, and her personal impact on me through the last 18 years, honestly, she has recreated my entire belief system about who I am, what is possible, and how we can change the world with our contributions. And I think, I can talk about people like Einstein, and I can talk about, other poets, and I can talk about my husband, and I can talk about my children and my parents. Obviously, there are so many special people that have been part of my journey, but I have to say that, Kathy Cooper's impact on me, and it continues to have an impact on me every single day. I measure a lot of the success in my day according to how she lives her life. I find it so inspiring. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. That's lovely. Well done.
Thank you. A little off the cuff, but real.
Well, that's genuine, and that is entirely you, authentic and genuine. So I expect nothing less. So let me ask, what are you working on at the moment? What's sort of cooking at the moment for you?
Oh, I've got a lot of things.
Why does that not surprise me?
Okay, so a few of my fun projects. Well, I'm still working in the entertainment world, and I had the privilege of starring in a new sitcom pilot that we were able to shoot during COVID, with a whole lot of rules on set, but it was so much fun, so much fun. I got to work with some dear friends that were part of the project as well. And it is going to be pitched to outlets like Netflix and Hulu, and we'll see what happens with that, but it was great fun. And so, we'll see where that goes, because when projects get picked up, that dictates a whole nother journey. So that's my little acting part. I'm also executive producing some projects. I have one project that I've been part of for a while. We're at some final stages, and it's the story of a female conductor. It's a docu-series, and it's a female conductor that became pregnant in a world largely dominated by men, the profession of conducting, and she conducted orchestras, or does, for video games. And unfortunately, when she became pregnant, she was fired by the boys' club that called her horrible names. But the thing about it was, she confiscated the emails and went all the way to the Supreme Court and lost the baby in the process, but won the case and changed the laws for all female conductors that followed. And then she went on to have another beautiful child. Anyway, I love producing projects that are celebratory of, change that's necessary, female stories. And then on the flip side of that, I'm in the process of setting up just a good old film noir action movie, which is a franchise piece. And that's just a lot of fun. That's been kind of on my desk for 20 years. So I know the guy that wrote the book that gave us the original option, hooked him up with the writer, and everything came full circle. And it's very exciting as we're in the process of setting that up and making some offers right now to the artists and that. And I'm also part of the world's first organic USDA plant-based pizza company. So during COVID, our pizza truck, our famous Los Angeles pizza truck, is not traveling the streets at the moment, but you can find us in the frozen section of 45 different Whole Foods right now. So that's kind of fun. And some of my dear friends are involved in that project with me. And it's always fun to do business with people that you admire. And so that gave me an opportunity there. And then this is like on another whole thing. I tend to get involved in projects that have things I like to learn about. So I believe that business is changing so rapidly, and obviously that's true. But what I believe about the changing of business is I believe that we are evolving as a planet, as people on a planet that want more transparency in our business dealings. There's something that I believe there's a trend of what I would call, and is called conscious consumership. And that means that we are buying from companies that we respect, where our values align. And we're asking companies to be more transparent about the processes behind whatever it is, whether it is how this particular clothing was manufactured and not using labor, in foreign countries and, underpaying people, or whether it's about the organic nature of a vegetable. And people want that.
Social conscience then, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm involved in a groundbreaking blockchain company. It's a supply chain that enables transparency to the buyers for the merchants that are using our platform. So, for example, right now, this company, Suku, is involved in delivering and distributing all the COVID testing, so that everything is trackable and traceable up to the point of it being given, to know that every part is working right. And then it also enables a crypto that will be available in the United States next year. And that's kind of a different concept. It's not just a cryptocurrency, but it's a cryptocurrency that happens to be attached and working with the supply chain blockchain technology. So I love learning about that because it's so different from like my world of health and wellness and my world of entertainment. Pizza's because I'm a foodie and I love pizza. And I have a lot of plant-based cuisine.
So that's incredible. I mean, and I love that, actually, because I asked you what's cooking. You actually had pizza in there, so so I think that's a first. So I'm really happy about that. So that's amazing. I mean, wow. You've mostly recited years worth of other people's lives of what they're working on. So that was phenomenal. What do you do after breakfast? No, I mean.
I am a member of the 5 a.m. club. Thank you very much, Robin Sharma. I love getting up early and having more time in the day. That's important when you're getting a lot of things done. But honestly, listen, I'm just going to say that I think that, all people that have many businesses like me, and I'm just a very small fish in a big pond of many other much bigger success stories than me. I mean, I'm like nobody, but in all honesty, I think it comes down to leverage. When you're working with teams and your opportunities are leveraged, it's not all about you showing up. I got out of that rat race about trading time for money a long time ago. And when you understand leverage and you understand passive income and you understand residual income, I would say that's the trifecta for being able to do more well. And then, of course, surround yourself with people that are a lot smarter than you. I do that really well, too.
Punching above your weight in all categories. So, well, look, now we come to the really fun part, which is the second part of the show where I get to ask you my 3 wishes. So are you ready, oh mighty Genie? Of course you are. I'm going to answer that for you. Yes. So my first wish is, what is the best advice you've received in your life?
Oh, my goodness. The best advice. I think it's really just march to the beat of your own drum.
Mm.
Not to be redundant, but I think that's the biggest theme in my life is that, I never fit in, and march to the beat of your own drum with confidence.
I love
It
that.
can happen.
And that, to be honest, especially to small entrepreneurs who are having to do a shift at the moment because of circumstances, still being able to walk and march to your beat of the drum is, I think, going to be a big saving grace for them.
Yes, I think there's a season for everything. And I don't think if you're in winter, I don't think it means that summer isn't coming. I think that if you're in winter, plant the seeds. Don't give up on the dream. And you don't have to be a one-trick pony. You can still keep the dream alive. When I talk to the people that I'm mentoring, it's about funding the dream. How are we going to fund the dream, and what vehicles are available to you to fund the dream? And then when you look at the fund, let's look at the first three letters, because we got to keep it fun, because today is all we have. So let's put some fun in the fund of the dream, not make it about the vehicle, but remember that the vehicle is just the vehicle to the dream. How's
Wow.
that?
Wow, I'm inspired, and to be honest, that was only my first wish. So I think you nailed that one, my friend. So look, let's see what value lies behind door number 2. So my second wish is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Really? Okay. So let me paint the picture. When I was little, and I know my mom would be like, but you were so cute. When I was little, I had a big afro before anybody knew what to do with curly hair. So I had a pick in my back pocket, and my mom would just make sure it was really round. I'm not kidding. And I had braces, and I was shorter than all of my beautiful, tall girlfriends. And, I think that, gosh, and now we're living in the Instaglam part of life, right? Where everything is visual and people are living through filters and putting emphasis so much on the outside before they do the inside. So what I think I would tell my younger self is, it's all good. And the most important thing that you have is your heart and your soul and the glory of your own intellect inside of you that will make every dream come true, that it's so not about the outside. Because most of my life, especially in the world of acting, it's so much about what you look like and all of that. But as a child growing up, always sort of feeling like the misfit because I was so out of the box. And on top of it, not being like the most attractive kid, right? I was the athlete, right? I wasn't, getting all dolled up like my friends. Even when I tried, it didn't work. And that can be traumatic when you feel like you're not being accepted, right? So I think that I would just tell my younger self to keep developing all of the gifts inside, knowing that true beauty comes from within.
I think beautiful, because so many people get to, and it comes down to reaction response, which you were saying before. There is, so many people are looking for external validation and approval and seeking approval. And so it's kind of refreshing to hear the anti and the other version, which actually is the nicer path, to be honest. It may not be the easiest, but it's certainly the nicest.
Thank you. Paul, that's another whole podcast. I'm fascinated with the fame game of what drives people. And I remember one of my great late acting coaches, Roy London, who said that actors are driven for validation from their audience. And when you lose the fundamental connection to your audience, and because you no longer need the validation, your time is kind of probably up.
Yeah, and it's kind of, if you think there's nothing else left to learn, then you know that you're not in touch anymore. So I think it's very, very powerful what you've said there, and that's very wise. I'm going to write him down as one of your 2 wishes there, because that's awesome. So that's really, really important. So
I think people need to ask themselves today when they have the microphone and when they're doing their lives and they're all over whatever their platform is, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, what is it that they need? Why are they doing this? Because it's one thing to serve and to desire to create impact, right? And it's another thing where it just is so evident that people are just starving for attention.
Yeah.
And if we could heal people from needing attention that way, to recognize that they are complete without that, is where the real success journey begins.
I love that. That's so you again. I mean, to be honest, it's, to be honest, what I've always admired about you is the fact is that you are a complete straight shooter, and actually what you see is what you get, even without the afro. So so let's move on to my third and sadly final wish, which is, I wonder if you could share with us one personal habit that attributes to your success.
Oh, can I list a few? Because it's not.
Hey, I'm cool with wishes being elongated, so go for it.
I wake up with the sun rising. I go to bed early. I meditate every day. It is my absolute secret weapon. And for 2 years straight, before COVID, I meditated 3 hours a day. Now I'm up to 1.5 on my own without my studios and whatnot. And consistency of action every single day, working towards short-term goals and my long-term goals, which would take care of themselves when I reach my short-term goals. And that disciplined work ethic. I may not be the smartest in the room or the best in the room, but I will outwork everyone in the room, not in order to compete with them, but to get what it is I want and what it is I feel I need. And as Uta Hagen says in her book, Respect for Acting, don't work to be the best, just work to be your own best. And so I do that with those habits on a regular basis, and I'm really, really consistent.
That's amazing, and you're quite right. It's not usual just one habit, but it's sort of a layered amount. So, and a routine, because that's what you have. No, very, very powerful. Well, I think I've got really good value for my 3 wishes there, so I leave a happy camper on that one. And finally, before we see where you hang out, what is one book which I know you have many, but is there one book which you would like to recommend to the viewers and listeners?
I love reading, and I have a list, and I have many libraries in my house. But I would say right now, because of the times we're in, there is an incredible Buddhist monk named Pema Chodron. And she has a book I read when things were going really well in the world, in my world. And this book arrived in the mail, and my husband looked at the title and he's like, honey, is everything okay? So it makes me chuckle when I think about the title of the book, but I do think it's a good book for now, and not only for now, but particularly for now. The book is called When Things Fall Apart.
Wow.
By Pema Chodron. And it really has to do, it's so interesting because it really has to do with more of the Westerners' relationship with death. Because in the Western world, we don't deal with it. We deny it. And then we freak out when we're facing it. oftentimes, not everybody, of course, but as a general rule, right? Whereas when you look at Eastern philosophies, people have a very different relationship with death, a very healthy relationship with it as part of the cycle of life, right? Even in Mexico, where I lived for 10 years, it's celebrated, right? The Day of the Dead and whatnot. And so I think that when we can look at our fear of death head on, it will transform. And I don't need to tell you this.
Well,
it will transform everything in our life. And lastly, this book helps examine our belief systems around things like death that will empower us through all times.
And so true. I mean, people talk about mindset, scarcity mindset. Death is a scarcity mindset because actually it's the biggest teacher you could possibly have. I know Michael Singer in the Untethered Soul, he's very into that. So yeah, I mean, beautiful book. And to be honest, I'm certainly going to have a look at that because that's a wonderful, wonderful recommendation. So thank you for that. So where can people find you after all this awesomeness? People are going to want to know where you are. So if you can tell us where we can get hold of you.
I'm so excited because it's been quite a few years that I sort of abandoned my personal touches to Facebook and to Instagram. I operate with a lot of private pages in order to support people that I'm working with and things that I'm supporting. So where I hang out and I'm really, really enjoying is LinkedIn. And I do my best to bring value to the network there. And I post regularly once a day. And I try to read the posts that inspire me and join conversations. But it's really exciting to keep expanding my community of people like yourself that are incredible thought leaders and people of inspiration that, add a social aspect to my day, where at a time when I'm not going out as much here in Los Angeles, we've been on terrible lockdown, unlike a lot of other parts of the world. So I dove in headfirst to LinkedIn, and I really feel like I've been able to find a tribe there that is very inspiring, like you.
And bless you, thank you. But I think you're right. I think there's a bigger sense of community than I think there ever has been. And so, looking at the silver lining, for example, we would have never got to spoken. So it's very easy to look past what actually are the benefits right underneath our noses. So I love that. Thank you for that. And hey, now we know where you are and who you are. You're not safe any longer. So, wow. I mean, to sum up, wow, an amazing, beautiful soul who, every way and every part of the business is all made to help others, and in an unorthodox, but actually a unorthodox mainstream way. So I love it. Well, thank you very much, Ellen. And finally, have you enjoyed yourself?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I hope that whoever is listening enjoys it themselves. So I appreciate so much all the kind words that you've shared with me. You're awesome. You're so inspiring. It's really my honor to be a guest on your show. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, we're just going to go and have a bromance going on here. So, look, everyone, I hope you've been inspired and moved in same measure by Ellen's wonderful journey and story. So I would encourage you to channel just 1% of Ellen's busy day and make an impact in your world and other people's world. So I'd like you to go and release your genie. Thank you once again to Ellen. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your genie Thanks for listening.